The first thing I remember is the sudden pause of forks in midair as my sister dragged her boyfriend toward me, her grin already laced with mockery before she even spoke. The Christmas lights flickered across her face when she said it. This is the failure of our family. My parents laughed as if it were tradition, like my humiliation was just another course on the holiday menu. I didn't move. I didn't speak. But he did. He looked at them, then at me, his voice slicing through the room. Interesting. Because she's not the one who's done. That was the moment everything shifted, silently but irreversibly. My name is Serenity Hale. For as long as I can remember, I've existed at the edges of every room in my own home. Even as a child, I learned how to move without sound, how to carry plates without a clatter, how to stand where the light didn't reach, how to leave room for the people my family actually noticed. Most nights, dinner felt like a performance, and everyone else had lines. Leia always claimed the center under the chandelier, her plate filled first. Mine was whatever scraps remained, cold vegetables, a broken corner of bread, the smallest sliver of chicken. I never complained. Complaining only drew Diana's soft, sharp voice. Don't be greedy, Serenity. She said it so often it became a kind of rhythm in the house. Richard hardly ever looked my way unless something needed fixing, a leaky faucet, a late bill, a chore Leia didn't want to do. I was good for tasks, not attention. He called it building character, though somehow Leia never needed the same lessons. She got new clothes, new clubs, new opportunities. I got lectures about being realistic and grateful. I remember one winter afternoon when Leia forgot her school project, some elaborate poster Diana had helped her with. When the teacher called about it, Richard didn't ask Leia why she left it behind. He turned to me, irritation heavy in his voice. Why didn't you remind your sister? As if my purpose in life was to keep hers from falling apart. Leia didn't look guilty. She never did. In our house, guilt was something assigned, not earned. As we grew older, I felt more invisible. My small, hard-won achievements vanished in the shadow of her performances. I remember earning a spot in a downtown art program, returning home with the acceptance letter, my heart racing, thinking maybe this time they'd notice me. Diana read it in silence and placed it neatly on the counter. Leia has danced today, she said. We can't be driving all over town. When I stayed quiet, she added, your mother would want you to be practical. That night, the acceptance letter went in the trash. 2 days later, Leia's new dance costumes arrived. Money disappeared the same way my opportunities had, silently. Funds meant for my classes, my savings, my future were redirected to Leia's needs, new shoes, competition fees, weekend trips. I learned not to ask. Asking only earned Richard's sigh, a lesson disguised as exasperation. We invest where it matters most. I always knew what that meant. The strange thing was, no one called it favoritism. They called it support, doing what's best, family. And I believed them, because believing made the house feel slightly less cruel. Still, I wasn't completely blind. I had my quiet rebellions, late nights sketching in the laundry room studio above the washers, saving bits of my allowance in envelopes hidden behind detergent, building a secret world where I didn't have to fight for a seat at the table. Even then, a part of me hoped things might change. If I worked hard enough, stayed quiet enough, maybe I'd finally be invited into the warmth they reserved for her. It took me a long time to realize that warmth was never meant for me. That day, I finally learned my place in this family. It happened quietly, like erasers slowly wearing away graphite, one missing name, a shifted glance, a door closing without sound. I was in the office late, the city beyond a distant hum. Leia's voice floated in from the break room, bright, rehearsed, careless. My sister doesn't have a real career. She just floats around. Adrienne only keeps her here out of pity. I didn't intervene. I stayed behind the half-open conference door, one hand on my laptop bag, breathing through the familiar sting. By the time I walked past, the conversation had moved on, as if it had never happened. But the real blow came the next morning. My concept file, weeks of work, was gone from the shared folder. In its place was a new version, renamed Polished, just enough to look like someone else's idea. Yayla's initials glowed in the signature line. I stared at the screen longer than I probably should have. The cursor blinked steadily, indifferent. A soft knock fractured the stillness. The intern stepped in, shoulders hunched as if trying to vanish. "I saw her download your file yesterday," he murmured. "She deleted the original." His eyes darted toward the hallway. I didn't know what to say. I nodded, not to him, but to the pattern, to the cycle so old it ran through my veins. I pulled up the access logs. There it was. Her username, the timestamp, the deletion, the upload, clean, deliberate. During the afternoon meeting, Leia retold the story. "Serenity always checked out under pressure when we were younger," she said. "She collapses easily." People chuckled politely. Adrian didn't. His gaze flicked toward me for a fleeting moment, like he was reading something hidden in the space I occupied. I kept my hands flat on the table, fingers brushing the cold edge. Silence wrapped around me like an old coat, heavy, familiar. I said nothing. I didn't defend myself. I didn't question why she felt entitled to reshape me year after year. When the meeting ended, she brushed past with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I mirrored it. I didn't go home. I left the office, rode the elevator down, and stepped into the evening chill like I was sinking underwater. Cars passed. Voices mingled. Holiday lights blinked from office windows. None of it belonged to me. I walked until the cold sharpened every edge of the city. I stopped in a co-working space 2 blocks from our agency. The keypad clicked beneath my fingers, the lock beeped, and I stepped inside. The room was empty, white light over long tables, the hum of a printer, the faint scent of stale coffee. Silence here didn't comfort, it steadied. I set my laptop on a table and opened the logs. Every timestamp was a small betrayal, Leia downloading my concept, the deletion, her upload, the edits, the late-night email to Adrian claiming she'd corrected flaws in my work. I scrolled without reaction. Access logs don't lie, gossip, or twist stories, they show exactly what someone touched. I copied everything into a folder labeled plainly documents. Then I gathered payments, bills, transfers, screenshots of budgets she signed without approval, emails hinting I was overwhelmed, unready, emotionally inconsistent. She had built her own version of me in the system, justifying taking my work, my credits, my place. It wasn't new. Just the first time I had proof. At midnight, my phone buzzed. A message from my aunt, a photo of old paperwork she found while cleaning. Payments my mother had left for me. Savings meant for my future disappeared when I was a teenager. "Your mother wanted you to have these," she wrote. I stared at the screen until the blue light stung, then added the files to my folder. Around 1 a.m., I moved to the back corner of the space where floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the dark city. Snow had begun to fall, tiny flakes drifting under street lamps. I watched until my breath slowed, my pulse steadied. Then I opened a new spreadsheet, simple and stark, a list of everything I had built at the agency, clients I'd brought in, campaigns I directed, projects Leia had claimed, folders I'd created, budgets I'd balanced, hours logged. It stretched longer than I expected. Most people think revenge burns hot. Mine was cold, methodical, a chain of small administrative acts, typed, saved, filed. The next morning, before anyone arrived, I went to the old studio above the laundromat on Aurora's Edge, where I had built my first freelance work. The machines below rumbled, shaking the floorboards as they always had. The air smelled of detergent and warm metal. I slid open a storage drawer. My old drives were still there, wrapped in a scarf from years ago. I plugged them in. Folders bloomed on the screen, early sketches, concept drafts, original styles that became the agency's signature voice. All mine, the seeds Leia had used to grow her reputation. I took what I needed, not out of spite, but because it was mine. Back at the office, Adrian sat in the conference room, staring at his laptop as if trying to outrun a headache. He looked up when I entered. "Sit," he said softly. I did. He turned the screen toward me. "My file, the one Leia claimed." He tapped the corner. "Your metadata is still inside." "Of course." She changed the name, not the core. He opened the access logs next to the folder I had built the night before. "You pulled everything," he said. I nodded. "I didn't push you into this, did I?" No. And you're sure you want me involved? I thought about silence, about what happens when you speak and no one listens, about what happens when you stay quiet and everyone assumes you'll keep swallowing what hurts you. Yes, I said. He studied me, not with pity, but with the precise focus of someone assembling something delicate. Then he leaned back. HR needs this. Legal needs this. The board needs to know where the credit truly belongs. His tone was calm, factual, administrative. We spent the next 2 hours assembling the file, every document, every log, every payment discrepancy, every moment my work had fed into Leia's pipeline of praise, typed, printed, signed. Around noon, he slid the completed packet across the table. I'll take care of it, he said. You don't need to be the one to hand this over. Still, part of me wanted to, not to argue, not to justify, not even to triumph. I just wanted to stop being the quiet witness to my own erasure. I lifted the packet. The paper felt heavier than it ought to. I rested my hand on it, steady and composed. This time, I said, I won't repair what they destroyed. I came late on purpose. Christmas dinner was already underway when I entered my father's house. The air hung thick with cinnamon-roasted meat and laughter that sounded rehearsed. Warm lights glowed against the chill outside. Every year, this house pretended to be a home. I lingered in the hallway, letting my coat drip meltwater onto the tile. They didn't notice me at first. Leia flitted around, spinning small tales for distant relatives, recounting unearned successes, leaning on Adrian's shoulder as if she owned the room. He didn't touch her back the way he usually did, his hand hovered briefly before dropping. When Richard finally saw me, he motioned to an empty chair at the far end of the table. Sit. We've been waiting. His tone suggested it was my fault the picture shifted. Diana's eyes skimmed over me, coat, shoes, hair, scanning for flaws. Try not to make an entrance, she whispered. I didn't respond. I sank into the shadowed edge of the seat, where I had always belonged. Dinner continued. Inevitably, Leia rose, pressing a hand to Adrian's arm as if seeking applause. I want everyone to meet my sister, she said, voice bright. She paused, flashing a practiced smile. This, she added, is the failure of our family. Richard laughed first. Diana nodded, almost proud of the line. The conversation tapered into that familiar hush of collective cruelty, the same one from childhood dinners, the one that told me to stay small, stay quiet, let it all pass over me. Adrian didn't laugh. He set his fork down with a soft clink. The room stilled around the sound, as if a curtain had fallen on the noise. Christmas music from the kitchen faded into nothing. He looked at Leia, then her parents, then slowly at me. Interesting, he said, low and steady. Because you're fired. The words landed without drama, just truth placed squarely in the center of the table. Leia blinked, confusion crossing her face. We're done, he added. Effective immediately. A few relatives shifted, uncertain if they should pretend they hadn't heard. Silence wrapped the room tightly. Adrian reached for his tablet, swiped once, and connected it to the living room TV. The screen glowed cold light across the room. The first file appeared, the original concept documents. My name embedded in the metadata, followed by access logs, timestamped, untouched. Leia's username flashed beside every action she thought invisible. Download, delete, upload. Slide after slide documented what she had taken, not just the file, but months of work, client strategies, and drafts. Her voice faltered as the evidence built itself. I didn't, she started. He didn't look at her. You did. When the payments showed up, when she authorized budget transfers, she acted without clearance. Richard leaned back, his expression cracking. Diana opened her mouth, then closed it, no script for this. Adrian remained calm. The board received the full report this morning. HR processed the termination and the final note. He clicked again. My portfolio appeared, the campaigns I built, projects I led, clients I brought in, years of work hidden beneath their narrative. Serenity, he said, eyes on me now, not asking permission, simply stating, reality is the co-founder and principal strategist of our agency. She always has been. No applause, no celebration, just a subtle shift, as if the house had been holding its breath for years and finally exhaled. Leia stepped back from the screen, as if burned. "You're choosing her over me," she said. Adrian met her with the same quiet finality he had all night. "I'm choosing the truth." No one looked at me directly. They couldn't. Their constructed story had collapsed. I sat with hands loosely folded, heart steady. For the first time, silence didn't feel like surrender, it felt like authority. Seattle didn't immediately feel like a fresh start. At first, it was just grey mornings, unfamiliar bus routes, rain tapping against a window belonging to no past I knew. But distance brings its own mercy. It lets the mind breathe, stretch, and reconsider the shape of a life. My new apartment was modest, its walls spotless, a single plant perched near the window. Outside, the city moved at a quieter pace than winter in Aurora. No rehearsed laughter, no curated family moments, no roles demanding performance, just the gentle, steady rhythm of rain tapping, as if checking in. Adrian helped arrange the new office, not out of duty, but because he recognized the difference between a space made for survival and one made for living. We kept it simple. A wooden desk, a soft chair, a few sketches pinned up from campaigns that were truly mine. Work felt different here, lighter. Not because it was easier, but because no one was trying to claim it. I didn't sever ties with my family. I just stopped orbiting around them. Whatever consequences came, the audits, the probing relatives, the fractured stories they carried on without me remained theirs. Silence can be harsh, yet sometimes it's the only language people understand. On Christmas Eve, a year later, I cooked with co-workers who had quietly become friends. We packed extra meals and walked them to a nearby shelter. The air was crisp, awakening, not the kind that holds you frozen. Later, at my own small table, I served myself the best portion, crispy, warm, perfectly chosen. No one told me I didn't deserve it. No one measured my worth against someone else's hunger. The moment was quiet. Almost nothing, but it felt like a life finally folding into itself, whole and unbent, mine. I once believed survival meant staying silent long enough for someone to finally notice me. Now, I understand silence differently. It isn't emptiness, it's a door I control, a room no one enters unless I allow it. I stopped hoping for a family that only cheered at my failures. And the moment I stepped away, their noise no longer followed me. Wherever this story reaches you, may you sense the steadiness of moving toward a life that truly responds.